So you've had a little bit of time on the job now. Give us kind of a sense of what your thoughts were going into it and kind of what the reality is and how those two things may be similar and different.
Well, some of my thoughts coming in, as a good thing, they are measuring up to what I initially thought of Dallas. One, it's a great city. It's got great people. The organization is big, and I knew it would take some time for me to get up to speed, but the employees have been very receptive, I think, to the change in leadership. And what I've expected from a community as well as a city connection and partnership, I think is about where I expected it to be. And it gave me great excitement in some respects because I love to find ways to build bridges. And so there's a lot of opportunity to continue to do that here. And so I'd say I've been pleasantly surprised, but excited about the upside for the city of Dallas.
Do you feel like you're kind of getting into the groove a little bit now as far as staffing and day-to-day stuff and just how everything operates?
I do. I think probably about 5 months in, I started to feel a little bit more comfortable and really feel like I had the lay of the land. Still working to better understand all the interests of my bosses, the city council, figure out how I can improve my communication to really be better at making sure that I'm meeting their needs. But I think the time I spent early on out in the community talking with people about City Hall and some of the things that they've been challenged with have really laid a foundation for me as it relates to the things that I need to work on. And so having the bond program now behind us as it relates to establishment of it, we've got to go out and really impart to people what's in it to their benefit, and the budget process is coming to a close. I'm looking forward to executing on the budget document and the plan, and so I'm excited. I think I've kind of hit the ground running a little bit, and the pre-time before I even started helped out quite a bit.
So we talked a little bit about this, but give us a sense of priorities that you have in your head as you kind of move forward into the end of this year and then, of course, the beginning of next.
Well, I'd say one of the number one priorities is to stabilize our public safety systems, police and fire, particularly as it relates to recruitment and retention. And I think getting to know, one, our fire chief a little better. I hadn't spent a lot of time with him, but I've been very impressed with what he's doing to try to bring our fire department along and modernize some of his practices. I think the recent hire of Chief Hall is also something I'm excited about that I think will go far in, again, stabilizing, building on our recruitment efforts and listening to ideas from her about retention. So public safety and the safety and well-being of this community, finding ways to make sure that those two systems are stood up correctly. Another priority is homelessness, big issue obviously in the downtown, but also in some of the other districts. We've got quite a bit of that as well as panhandling. So it's working with the new office we created, Homeless Solutions, to figure out where the city is situated, how we're spending our dollars, who our partners are, figuring out how we can impact reducing the level of homelessness in the community. And then infrastructure, I think executing on the bond program, if in fact it is approved in November, will be a big deal to ensure that we deliver, that the projects that we've laid out, that we can prioritize those to meet the needs of the districts, as well as, I think, just being transparent about it so that people can understand kind of where we are at all times in the bond program. Beyond that, there's some big things that I'd love to consider working on, and that is the establishment and creating a 10-year strategic vision for the city and working with the community to do that. Really get a better feel for our land use and zoning on a citywide basis, as well as improving our building and permitting areas to be more efficient and more responsive, particularly given the anticipated growth in this community.
If the bond is a success, I would assume you're excited about the possibility that there will be for the citizens some ability to see some improvements that are happening and get some results that they've kind of been demanding for a while. Is that accurate?
I think so. It's a big bond program, a little over $1 billion, about 500 million plus in streets, which obviously that's something our city council, as well as I hear quite a bit about. It's making a small dent in some of our deferred maintenance, but our building conditions out in the community, particularly those public spaces, are important, and I think we need to really do a better job of maintaining those and improving those. And then we've got quite a bit in parks built into this budget, and again, that is what makes communities communities. And so I'm excited about what's in there. I think people will see visibly improvements that many of them have been asking for quite a long time. I think the process that we undertook to establish the bond program and build on the prior conversations of the City Council, I think it was very open. It gave people an idea, not just about what was going on in their district or what was lacking, but it provided perspective for what was going on in the entire city so people could truly see what some of the deficiencies were in other areas, where in fact when they thought they had it bad, they could look at other areas and see that there needed to be more dollars put there as well.
You're on our steering committee for the 360 update. How important is it to have strategic plans like that in place as you try to build a thriving urban core and the surrounding districts?
Very important. I think that plan is a great blueprint for what you need to do and what you need to be working on continually in your downtown area. And I think for the city, having a partner like the Downtown Dallas Inc., aligned with our staff and the strategies and the things that we're working on, particularly as we come into contact with other groups externally, but can always navigate back to a plan, I think is important for us because it keeps us focused. But I think the biggest piece is we've got to continually work together to work the plan. A plan is just a plan unless you put it in action. And I think beyond just staff work and having conversations, we've got to put the resources to bear to get there. And I think the plan provides that blueprint. I think I'm focused on ensuring that at least the city lives up to its side of the partnership, and my team is aligned around that plan.
Mobility is obviously one of the most critical issues, and the plan addresses a lot of issues of mobility, whether it be bike, pedestrian, bus, rail. We just got the news about the alignments. Mm-hmm. So talk about that critical piece in getting people in and out of and around the urban core.
What's important, and I think, again, the multimodal aspects of what you just mentioned are critical. And I think we do a good job of sitting back and watching some of the big things that TxDOT does. But what's important to us is, okay, once you leave those major systems, how does that integrate with your downtown? And I think one of the things that we've done, at least that I'm recommending this year, is the creation of a transportation department proper in the city to truly focus and drill down on those types of thoughts and discussions and work, again, with our downtown community and the broader community to figure out how we develop Dallas-centric discussions and focuses on transportation and how all those different modes of transportations come together, and we ensure that we're able to at least speak our voice at a table as it relates to not just reacting to what other people are proposing to do to our transportation systems.
Now that you've been here in the urban core, you work here every day and have actually seen things moving around and the progress that's been made, I'm sure you're aware, just in the last decade. Mm-hmm. in the city center. Were you surprised at all at how much progress has taken place downtown?
You know, I was a little bit, but excited because I think we still got room for a lot more advancement down here. But I've been excited. It's been, I won't say challenging for me at least, obviously being new, to navigate the downtown because I spent most of my time looking at a GPS. So I got to be cognizant about where I'm going. But I think the progress that's been made with improvements in transportation as well as just the living and people on the street in our downtown, I think has impressed me quite a bit. But again, I think there's a lot more room for improvement if we continually focus on transit-oriented, related developments and all those kinds of things. You'll just see more of it in the city, in the heart of the city, making sure that we're getting people in and out, and there's various opportunities to use different modes of transportation. I think we'll continue in that stead, and I think we'll be fine.
Is there any one thing that has kind of sparked in your head that you say, I'd like to maybe change that or improve that about downtown and the urban core?
You know, I'd like to see more people on the street in the evening. I'd like to see us not in my mind, shut down at 5 or 6 o'clock. And I think any city manager would love to see that. Now, obviously, that comes with its own challenges as it relates to people living downtown. But I'd love to see more of that. I'd love to see us as a city begin to treat our downtown, I'd say, more like a neighborhood. And I think we're doing that. I know later this evening I'm meeting with a group of neighborhoods from downtown to begin that discussion, to begin to treat and have discussions with them similar to some of our more suburban type areas in this city. And so I'm hopeful, again, that we'll continue to have that focus, that we'll continue to be able to communicate and work to make sure that the city center is taken care of and cherished.
We've had great gains with regard to residents downtown. 20 years ago, there were a couple of hundred people living in one building down here. Now, over 10,000. But talk about the importance, because I know that it's a big deal for you, of a diversity of access to housing in the downtown area.
Well, that's obviously going to be a challenge, obviously, based on just the economics of land and the cost in our downtown. But I think we'll continue to try to make sure that there is space for that. And I know many of our programs, particularly the ones that the city funds, require certain types of levels of housing to be provided, and we'll continue that. I think we're doing a study now that we entitle the Market Value Analysis that will give us more guidance and ability to be able to allocate our resources more wisely, particularly around the continued development here. But it's very important. And as we see more units, I think ensuring that at least many of those units, some of them are affordable, I think is going to be key to the success of downtown.
Well, and have 2 and 3 bedrooms.
Yes,
As people who moved down here 10 years ago, they're starting to have kids, and so that's a big part of it. And one of the pieces of our DBJ insert is about education in the urban core. So talk a little bit about the importance of, now that the people are here, what you do from that point.
I haven't given that much thought. Obviously, as the city manager, I probably should be thinking about that. But you're right, the diversity and the size of the dwellings is also important. And I think we've got a school, I think we've got an uplift downtown and some things of that nature. So I get a little worried sometimes when I see the little ones out on the sidewalk in the middle of all the traffic. But I myself live downtown, and I'm in a 2-bedroom. I wish I had a 3-bedroom. And so I'm going to begin to be looking for a little larger space, and I love just the access to all the things downtown, not just my job, but the availability of the amenities, I think. So as we start to think about bringing different types of families into our downtown, I think we've got to be cognizant of how they want to live once they get here. And I think beyond the living, dwelling, transportation is so key and critical to get people out of their cars in a very dense and certain types of areas, I think is important.
So when you're not in this office and you get to go home and have a little downtime and spend some time, what are some of the things that you've been able to do or have liked doing being a downtown resident?
I haven't been able to do that much. And so as I typically get off pretty late in the evening, it's just a little sightseeing when I go through. I try to drive through different areas of downtown to be more familiar. My weekends, quite honestly, I try to spend most of that with my kids, and so spending time at the museums and the zoo and other things like that since I've been here have been pretty much my life, if not watching a lot of those PG movies that come out. And so that's pretty much what I've been doing when I'm not at work.
How many kids? How old?
I've got 6-year-olds and a 9-year-old.
So 3.
And so I got 3 little ones, and so they keep me quite busy. And so they're enjoying being here, and I'm enjoying the time I do get to spend with them, but I got to find time to spend more time with them, I'm sure.
But there are great things to do, the Perot, the Arts District. I mean, you don't really have to go too far.
I do not. I enjoy it. Again, I am struggling with, do I ever want to move from outside of the downtown area? And so that is something I'm going through right now. But I'm enjoying my time here. Downtown is a great space and a place, and again, it can only get better.
The mobility piece has been big. There was a news conference with Line Bike a few weeks ago. I'm sure you've seen all the bikes. Everyone's seen all the bikes. So talk about how that was kind of a creative solution to, because we've been trying to get something done with bikes for a while. So give me your thoughts on the ability to have dockless mobility with bikes downtown.
You know, I think it's great, particularly when you see the private sector really thriving without government intervention. And I know when cities embark upon bike sharing programs, get a lot of strings, you get a lot of things that come with it and a lot of challenges. And so it's been exciting to see that bubble up on its own. I think, you know, I am still watching. I think our council wants us to have a light touch at this point as it relates to how we approach it, just to see if there are any negative impacts. I think one of my bigger concerns, and I'm always concerned about things, is just making sure that as we grow that industry, and I think it's very popular and people enjoy it, I've seen quite a few bikes, is that, you know, we don't impede access, particularly for those who may be disabled. And so that is really probably the only concern I have right now. But I'm looking forward to working with those companies, working with my staff and council to assess how we can continually grow that effort. But again, I think that is the excitement of being in a downtown area, particularly one that, you know, it may be hot down here, but people enjoy getting out on their bicycles. So I'm excited about it.
You had some familiarity with the North Texas area before coming into this job. I guess, what was your mindset about downtown, uptown, you know, just the urban core prior to getting this position and being really in the trenches in downtown Dallas?
You know, it's quite different. It had been a while since I had lived in the area. Obviously, I went to school here in the early 90s. I came back and visited, actually, for a city manager design academy in 2015. I got a chance to ride around the city and look at many of the things that had gone on in the last 5 to 10 years, Clyde Warren Park, the Arts District, and had a pretty good tour of that. It was really eye-opening to see the changes that had occurred downtown. And so, again, my impression was only, I guess, improved as it relates to the work that people had put in, and the city managers and the councils and the community. And when I got here, again, I was just excited because there's so much human capital and assets already geared to making downtown successful, and people get it. And I think, you know, for me, it's just making sure that the city is actively engaged, and we're listening, and we're finding ways to build upon the innovation and the thoughts that people have about what they want their downtown to be. So again, I'm excited to be here and excited to be the manager.
Dallas is a lot about, and I'm sure that you found this, partnerships,
yes,
public-private, and there are some cities that I'm sure the city manager or the mayor or whoever feels like they're kind of doing it on their own. Mm-hmm. But talk about, you know, from the business community, organizations like DDI, how those partnerships have made this what it is now.
You know, that is one thing, again, that I heard quite a bit about in 2015 when I came. It was those public-private partnerships. It was the philanthropic communities. It was the Downtown Dallas Inc. and the other organizations who have a vested interest in making sure that Dallas is successful. Our business community has been, I think, one that I've heard has always stepped up when things needed to be done here. And so I've seen that kind of rallying. I have not met a person yet that has talked to me that has said, listen, I have no agenda. What I want to see is you be successful and Dallas being successful. So what is it that I can do for you to help you? And I think that has been the exciting part. And there's a great wealth in this community, and I think there's a lot of good people with heart for and loving of Dallas. And I think that, for me, I won't say it's different as a city manager, but the overwhelming nature of it and the energy around that, I think, has really been impressive to me. And so there is not one thing in this city that I believe, if we really come together and think we need to do, that people wouldn't be standing in line to see how they can help. And I think as a city manager, I think that is very, very key, ensuring that you can at least be able to orchestrate how you bring people together to do great things and big things for a city. And I think for me as the city manager here, I couldn't be happy and more excited to be sitting here and working in an environment where people want to get better, and they know what better is because they've seen it and they breathe it and they live it, and they want to find ways to work together.
Last question, the way things are here in that regard, yes, and just what's going on in the city of Dallas as a whole, and I won't bring up the A word, but attracting businesses, attracting companies, what do you think that positions Dallas with an advantage over some other areas?
I think it does. I think, just the simple things that I think companies look for, whether that's with our DFW airport and Love Field and our access to nonstop flights and can fly pretty much anywhere in the world. Proximity to that, I think just our transportation network, whether rail, whether the interstates, I think just the overall metropolitan area, the size of it and the diversity of housing and living opportunities beyond the city of Dallas, but I think also just our downtown and the availability and opportunity, and just because we're Dallas in some respect and we're the big dog, I think it is a magnet for attracting high quality companies. But I'd say on our part as a city, my thought on that is we still got to improve as an organization, how we reach out and touch, and the things that we do that impact business, our building and permitting areas, finding ways to be more efficient, our workforce readiness and development aspects, making sure that, again, we are on the cutting edge. We've got so many colleges and universities in this area. We've got to have some considerable thought around how we grow them continually to be putting out and pumping out students that are for the types of businesses that we want to attract and or retain. And so it's those kind of things as a city manager that you get to work on and work with people to figure out how do we see around corners to be ready for opportunities. And so I think we're positioned well to do that, and we can only find ways to refine how we do it, to find ways to attract more and better.